Hello and welcome back. And is this the day I'm going to get this thing started? I hope so. And to help me along the way, I've just taken delivery of these bad boys, and it's a genuine set of Bosch fuel injectors, and the numbers correspond. They were new old stock, and they're complete with the rubber O-rings as well, which is great. But before I get going, I'd just like to say a thank you for the comments in the comment sections of the previous video, giving me tips and ideas on how to get this thing going. You know, it's very much appreciated, and I have and I will try all the suggestions that you've given me. One in particular says that you know, if there's fuel there and spark there, it should run. So there's definitely fuel there, although the old injectors weren't spraying out a good spray of fuel. However, although it's got new spark plugs, leads and distributor cap, I've not actually tested to see if there's a spark at the spark plugs. It definitely runs above, you know, 2000 revs, but below that it won't. So I'll do a little test on that. You know, as my dad said, never overlook the obvious. Another thing was, on a video, this chap had a Volkswagen Golf Mark II GTI with the Bosch K-Jetronic system on it, and it just would not start. So he gave it to this chap who has the video channel, and I'll put a link in the description below of it to it. And what he done a few electrical tests, and he traced it back to an electrical block that manages the sensors around the engine, and there's not many sensors on an Audi and the Volkswagen that he was working on. And what he detected was that the cold temperature sender switch wasn't working. So I tested the old one, I couldn't seem to get it to work, and I can't really understand the multimeters, I'm terrible at that. But for the price of a new one, it was only 12 quid, and I got it from Highland Quattro, who's a really friendly chap, really obliging. So I've got this, and I'm going to put this in, and I mean, if it's that, then that's absolutely great. I know everything else is all in vain, but at the end of the day, I want to replace as much as I can anyway. You know, once it's all done, that's it done and running right. So without any further ado, I'm going to get working on it, and cross fingers, you know, hopefully it might run by the end of the day. So we'll get this switch in first, simply because it's the easiest thing to do. I've got my torch and my mirror out here because I don't know if this has got any, but down the holes where you put the injectors, some of them have like little plastic locating cups, and I just don't think this has any, and it looks pretty clean down there, which I'm pleased about. I'll give it a little clean with like a screwdriver and a rag with some cleaner on it, some brake cleaner on it, and then I'll secure the ejectors onto the injector pipes and just push them home. Right, so I've just wrapped a cloth around this. It's actually a centre punch, which is a slightly smaller diameter than the injectors, and I'll spray it with carb cleaner. Carb cleaner. God, who's ever seen carbs these days? You don't see them anymore. So I once built up a Mark 1.4 Escort with twin 40s and set up the carburetors myself, done all the jets and everything, and I just done it with using a little thing you put in your ears, and you just listen to the air intake of all the 4 cylinders, and I got it set up absolutely spot on. I was dead chuffed, but to be honest, I'm showing my age. That was in the 80s. Good grief. There we go. It's not too bad. Number 5, and that one's really dirty. So I'll give them another going over, and then I'll attach the injectors and push them home. before I put them in, I'm just going to do my little injector test again. So I'll pop these in here and I'll compare the flow with the new injectors against the old injectors. So I'll just pop these in. That's it all set up now, and I'm going to turn the fuel pump on manually with a bypass switch, and I'm going to do the same test as I did last week. So from at rest position, I'm going to raise the sensor plate up to where it would be in idle, and then raise it to half throttle, then up to full throttle, then back to half, back to idle, and back to stop. And I'll compare the flow rate or the flow pattern to the old injectors that I did last week. That's the pump on. And that's them starting to flow. But it takes a wee while for them to clear themselves. I don't know if it's because these were like new old stock. These could have been sitting for about 20 years. But these three are spraying fine now, but these two are still blocked in some sort of way. So I'll keep the petrol going through until they're all flowing properly. Somebody also pointed out that the petrol looked dirty, but it's actually Shell V-Power, but I've actually put some Red X in it, and that's what's given it the colour. So the petrol's actually fresh. So number 1 injector wasn't spraying at all, so I'm going to swap over numbers 1 and 2 and to see if it's either the line or the injector itself. That's them swapped over, so I'll give it a try again. So that's the injector not spraying, so I'll have to clean this out somehow. I'll just continually try it until it clears itself out, I think. Right, that's them all flowing fine now. So I'm going to do an injector test, and as I said, I'm just going to raise the sensor plate to idle, then to half throttle, then to full throttle, then back to half, back to idle, and then back off. And I'll compare the flow of the new injectors to the old injectors that I did last week. Well, that was great. They were flowing absolutely spot on, and you can hear from the noise of them as well. They have a different pitch at at idle, half throttle, and full throttle, and the spray pattern was identical in all 5. So now that they're running fine, I'm going to wedge them all back in, connect everything back up, and give the car a try. Oh, and another chap in the comments section said to get it going, you screw this clockwise down all the way, and this is the mixture adjustment screw, and then as soon as you raise this, the fuel should come out of the injectors, and then you just turn it back ever so slightly so that it doesn't run as rich, and that should be it nearly set. And then you just fine tune it afterwards with a CO meter, coming out the exhaust. So I'll give that a try as well and see how I get on. Well, I'm getting most of the stuff put back together, but before I go any further, I'm just going to check for spark. I've had the first two plugs out already, and this is the third one, and you can see there it's completely blackened up. But at least there's power getting to the plugs, because I hope you could see it sparking there. It definitely is sparking. So I'll get them all cleaned and put back in. Right, that's all the plugs in, leads back on. I've checked all the plugs, I've cleaned them all, and I've checked that there's a spark running to each one, which there is. So the ignition side is okay, the coil leads on, and it's a new distributor, they're new plugs, they're new leads. On the fuel side, I've checked all the pressures are fine, the cold running pressure, the system pressure, even the warm-up pressure once it warms up. It's got new injectors on it. I've tested them, they're working. You saw how I lifted the sensor plate. The injectors are flowing correct, so that side is fine. The cold start valve works. The only thing I've not got is the thermotime switch, but I've got that bypassed. And I've got a good earth which will switch on the cold start valve. I've got all the other connectors on as well. And I've also checked for leaks as well. There's absolutely no vacuum leaks whatsoever. I've been over all the pipes. I mean, it's really a straightforward engine. So the only thing left is to put in the fuel pump relay. The battery's fully charged, and I'm going to attempt a start. So that's everything together. I'm only delaying the start because I just don't have a good feeling about it. I've been at this stage so many times before, you know, wanting it to start. But I've done the injectors and the water temperature switch, and between those two and all the ignition and all that, so fingers crossed it's going to start. Why is it? What's going on here? Why is it every time I stick the screwdriver in it'll start? I'm right back to square one. And absolutely everything I've done, I've checked absolutely everything, and it just won't start. It'll only start when the screwdriver is wedged into the metering unit. I'm a bit fed up, to be honest with it. I'm going to have another look around and check everything and check the ignition. It's not the timing, because when it does start, it revs freely and willingly, but it will just not initially. It'll not start with the duct on at all without the screwdriver being wedged into the sensor plate. So you know, what's all that about? And it's not got an immobilizer or anything, because it's the car's too old for that. I've just no idea. I've no idea whatsoever. Right, I put the duct back on, and Fraser's here now, and I'm going to try and start the car, and obviously taking the injector out, and we're just going to see if it's going to spray.
Nada.
Nothing.
Nothing.
There was no fuel coming through there at all, so I haven't a clue to be honest. But if I put the screwdriver in, which I'll try next, I'll see if it will spray at idle, but it usually goes to about 3,000 revs plus, so I'll give that a go now. Right, try it again. Well, I was getting myself a little bit despondent before, but then Fraser came and spurred me on a little bit. But it was good because he was able to sit in the car and start it. And he said that there was an air leak, so I got this contraption out, put it in my lug, and listened for an air leak. And the only thing I could see was that there's a unit in here, and I don't know what it is. So I plugged that up, and it wasn't that. What it was there was round about this area here, and it's actually the sound of the induction and also this sensor plate in here. So what I done was plugging the screwdriver in, I put a bit of tape around it, and we managed to, with Fraser starting the car, I managed to start the car with the duct on. So what I think I'll do now is I'll take the metering unit off altogether. I'll adjust the sensor plate so that it goes up to that position, and then I can hopefully tune the car, hopefully get it going. So I might not be that far away actually. I was getting myself a bit despondent, but I think I may be closer than I think. So it's getting late now, and I think we might be heading off to McDonald's or Greg's maybe?
Greg's.
Greg's before the shut, get something to eat, and then come out again tomorrow. Right, I've come out the following day. It's a Monday, so I've had to work all day, so I've come out in the evening, and I've just got enough light just to start it and see if it'll run. But this time I'm going to let it warm up and then take the wire out of the cold start valve, the thermotime switch, so that the cold start valve isn't running all the time. And I'll just let it run for a while and warm up to temperature, and then I'll try and adjust the idle screw to see if that makes any difference with the revs, you know, revving at 2,000 revs. In fact, I'm just going to turn the revs down just now, and I can only get in with this little screwdriver in my hand, but fortunately it'll turn. So I'll just turn the revs down a little bit, and we'll see if if it'll start, and two, it'll hopefully rev just a little bit lower. Well, it's running again, and it wasn't the great sort of eureka moment that I was after. I was going to jump for joy. I think I'm going to have to work hard to get this to run right, and I think it's a combination now of the sensor plate level, the idle screw and the mixture screw. So the next thing I'm going to tackle is the mixture screw at the moment, before I take the metering unit off and readjust the sensor plate. But I'll have to, as I say, take that off, and I'll take that inside, and because there's lots of sort of parts in there that you can lose, so I'm going to do it in the bench, and it's quite difficult to knock it out as well, so I'll do that inside. But in the meantime, I'll just give the mixture screw a bit of a turn and maybe lean off the mixture, because it was popping and banging quite a bit, which is usually sort of over fueling. And if I give that a go, maybe between the mixture screw and the idle screw, I can get it running more smoothly. But once it clears itself, once I can move the throttle behind and rev it, it seems to clear out the excess fuel. So I'm just hoping that's what it is. I'm going to give it a go anyway. So to get it started, I had it turned clockwise right down, so I'm going to turn it maybe sort of, I'll find out where the extremities of the screw are, and then so that's sort of 1, 2. It's 2 turns, so I'll just turn it. There we go. 1 screw turn to weaken the mixture, and I'll try and start it and just see what happens. It's going to need more angle in the sensor plate, because that's almost fully shut now. Connect up the cold start valve again, just to get some fuel through, get it started. Put the radiator cap on next time. But well, it's running. I think I'm going to have to take off the metering unit so that I can adjust the sensor plate to get it to a decent height so that it will start and run. So surely I'm not too far away from it running right now. How many times have I said that? I'm going to take off the metering unit, but that's quite a big job, so I'm just going to cut this video short here. To be honest, if it goes on any longer, I'll end up with a feature movie. But I'm not stringing this out either. If I could get this car going in 5 minutes, I would. And not having it going for weeks on end. So please, thumbs up, keep watching, keep subscribing. I've actually got another car coming into the garage very shortly. It's not my own car, but it's one that I'm going to have a look at, and you'll never guess what it is. It's actually a surprise to me as well. So we'll hopefully see you soon with a fully running Audi coupe.